Welcome to Giant Ability TV.
The times that we are in Nigeria in particular, are those of great contradictions and contrast. These are evidenced by the reigns of thick darkness and light, messages of hope in hopelessness, and the incontrovertible truth that is poised of hitting the nail directly on the head. Some elders fit in for description as statesmen and patriots, while others fit in for description as politicians and despots. Looking into the annals of history, especially since the return of democracy in 1999, the likes of the former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the late former President Musa Yar'Adua and the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan do not fit in for description as politicians for the display the hidden and rare values required in purpose-driven leadership that qualified them to be statesmen. Former President Muhammadu Buhari, unfortunately, allowed the incidental and personal interest to obscure his innate abilities to leadership, thereby making himself off for a morsel of bread and bankrupting Nigeria as a country. His successor, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a product of the largesse of corrupt practices of the former president and therefore cannot be different, as he is a chief of the old bloc, a faulty foundation, a politician in every negative sense of it, and therefore cannot give what he doesn't have. In all honesty, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have been the first career politician to become Nigeria's president had the former president Muhammadu Buhari stood his ground and not allowed the incidental to rob him of the significant. And as we all know, the lives of people in this category are the epitome of lies, deceit, and shameless disregard for the rule of law, with the state capture being a way of life in leadership. It only takes time, and I believe Nigerians are beginning to see the difference between the wheat and chaff, the night and day, the good and the bad. However, once opportunity lost, it's hard to regain. But if God is God and man is man, there shall be a turnaround for the country of Nigeria. Speaking with a friend and lamenting on the situation of things in Nigeria without mincing words, he said, if the British Broadcasting Corporation BBC can be so corrupted to the extent that some of its staff members were compromised by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, suffice to say that there is no institution on earth that Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot corrupt. Then I asked if he thinks the great names in the ministry, such as Pastor Enoch Adeboye, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, and Bishop David Oyedepo, the founder and presiding bishop of the Living Faith Church, also known as Winners Chapel, can be influenced. The same question is presented before us to answer. Recall that during the 8-year tenure of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, a Fulani Muslim from the northern part of Nigeria, who had a pastor of the Redeemed Christian Church of God in person of Professor Yemi Oshibanjo as his vice, a sizable number of the ministers of God across the country Nigeria, with particular reference to Bishop David Oyedepo and his spiritual sons, were very vocal and hard on the former president. They almost turned their pulpit into a platform where political matters were discussed and observed errors condemned vehemently.
Covenant channels of blessings to flourish in hard times. His blessings, they make rich and add no sorrow with it. Covenant channels of blessings. What are the avenues of blessings ordained for us in scriptures? We're looking at 4 of them in this session. First one is obedience. That constitutes the principal channel of blessing. It brings us into the blessings and preserves the blessing. We saw Abraham's flourishing destiny built on the stronghold of obedience. Obedience was the stronghold of Abraham's walk with God. Obedience. We saw it in chapter 12. We saw it in chapter 13 of Genesis. Chapter 17 of Genesis on the circumcision. We saw it in chapter 22. Tireless, delightsome, cheerful obedience. And if Abraham said, you do the works of Abraham. Abraham obeyed into the realm of sworn blessing. Sworn, by myself have I sworn that in blessing I would bless you, because you have obeyed my voice. Emukanias. Obedience is the covenant principal channel of blessing. Principal channel. Principal channel. Obedience. If you will diligently hearken to my voice and observe to do the commandments of the Lord as I command you today, that the Lord will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings will come to you and overtake you.
We are not oblivious of the fact that because of the Muslim ticket of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's choice before the presidential elections, almost all the Nigerian ministers of God and the majority of their members were against Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his party, the All Progressive Congress. Recall also how Bola Ahmed Tinubu hired fake bishop in a bid to assuage the feelings of the discontented ministers of God. According to Napoleon Bonaparte I, he described religion as the solace of mystery, the wealth of the poor, and the future of the dying. He also opines that I can believe in religion if it had existed from the beginning of the world. But when I read Socrates, Plato, Moses, and Mohammed, I have no more belief. It is all being invented by men. But why did they invent it? To comfort the poor, Napoleon answered, and to keep them from killing the rich, for all men are born unequal and become more unequal with every advancement in technology and specialization. A civilization must elicit, develop, use, and reward superior abilities, and it must persuade the less fortunate to acceptable, peaceable these inequalities of reward and possession as naturally as necessary. How can this be done? By teaching men that it is the will of God. I do not see in religion the mystery of reincarnation, but the mystery of the social order. Society cannot exist without inequality of rewards, and therefore property and inequality that cannot be maintained without religion. It must be possible to tell the poor, it is God's will there must be rich and poor in this world, but hereafter and for eternity there will be a different distribution. Religion introduces into the thought of heaven an idea of equalization which saves the rich from being massacred by the poor. If all these be true, it was a mistake of the Enlightenment to attack Christianity and of the Revolution to make Catholic preaching difficult. The intellectual anarchy which we are undergoing is the result of the moral anarchy, the extinction of faith and the negation of principles which are preceded. Having been illuminated by the thought of a general in person of Napoleon Bonaparte I, it is therefore not out of place to critically situate the content of the messages delivered by God's general of our time during the just concluded Shiloh 2023, which had its theme as I am redeemed to flourish in hard times, and the Holy Ghost Congress 2023, which had its theme as divine repositioning. These two themes, placing them side by side with the mantra of the renewed hope of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one would see that it is not out of place to suggest that the two themes were well crafted to align with the mantra of the renewed hope. Without pursuing the shadows and losing the substance, God's generals did justice to the themes by their highly spiritual and motivational deliveries, which turned out to be a blessing to the congregant.
Divine repositioning Ìṣínípò látòkè wá.
Position matters.
Ipò tí èèyàn wà ó ṣe pàtàkì.
Position matters a lot.
Ipò ó ṣe pàtàkì gidigidi.
The head is better than the tail.
Orí ó sàn ju ìrù lọ.
That's why Deuteronomy 28 verse 13.
Ìdí nìyí tí Deuteronomy orí kejìdínlọ́gbọ̀n ẹsẹ̀ kẹtàlá.
Deuteronomy 28 verse 13.
Deuteronomy orí kejìdínlọ́gbọ̀n ẹsẹ̀ kẹtàlá.
Says, you shall be head and not the tail.
Olófin sọ wípé ìwọ yóò jẹ́ orí bẹ́ẹ̀ ni o kì yóò jẹ́ ìrù.
You shall be above only and not beneath.
Òkè ni ẹ ó máa wà títí láyé òun kò sì ní sí ní ilẹ̀.
Position matters.
Ipò ó ṣe pàtàkì.
How important is it to be head?
Báwo ló ṣe pàtàkì tó láti jẹ́ orí?
You understand that by the fact that when they want your picture for your passport,
eléyìí á yí ọ nígbà tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ àwòrán rẹ pélébé láti lò.
For your passport.
Fún àwòrán rẹ láti lò.
Fún ìwé ìrìnnà. All they want to see is the picture of your head.
Ohun tí wọ́n fẹ́ náà ni àwòrán orí rẹ.
They don't bother about the rest of the body.
Kò sí tó kàn wọ́n pẹ̀lú ìyókù ara ẹ.
That tells you how important the head is.
Èyí sọ fún ọ pàtàkì bí orí ṣe jẹ́.
And I'm decreeing to every one of you here today.
Mo wá ń sọ tẹ́lẹ̀ sí gbogbo ẹ̀yin tí ń bẹ ní lónìí.
Young and old.
Lọ́mọdé àti lágbà.
In the name that's above every other name.
Ní orúkọ náà tó ju gbogbo orúkọ lọ.
You shall be head.
Orí lẹ máa jẹ́.
However, one thing that was missing was connecting their well-crafted messages with happenings in Nigeria, which was the host country of these two events. Rather, they tactically linked their themes to global happenings, which one may be tempted to see as a way of taking the eyes of Nigerians away from the connectivity of the themes to the mantra of the president. There is nothing bad when ministers of God are seen to be preaching messages of peace, especially in situations that are already volatile, as it is in Nigeria because of the failure of the February 25, 2023 presidential elections to be credible, fair, and transparent, and produce a president that represents the choice and the will of the people. Where caution needs to be taken is where God's generals have chosen to keep silence and be indifferent to the plight of Nigerians due to inducement for personal gains and self-interest. The sudden change in the method of delivery of messages and the choice of themes for their event caused suspicion, and Nigerians are hoping that they have not been bought over by the master strategist, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Where the order of the day is such that strong institutions that are supposed to be the vanguard of the nation, as well as the watchdogs of the people, are being bought over and compromised by politicians, what becomes the result are underdevelopment, corruption, and all kinds of social vices, with the country retrogressing instead of progressing. The situation in Rivers State, where 25 members of the State House of Assembly, elected under the platform of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), unceremoniously defected to the All Progressive Congress Party (APC), as well as where the Chief Judge and Attorney General of the state and 7 commissioners tendered their resignation letters, claiming they did that for personal reasons, an eyesore, retrogressive, and ridiculous to say the least. This is dirty politics and a negative sign that all is not well with the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where riffraff politicians like the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, are giving room to operate. True is the saying that we don't make a bad king, but bad lieutenant, and that if you don't understand the character of a person, just look at his friends. Politicians are only concerned with winning elections, while statesmen are concerned with laying a solid foundation for the country. As unstable as the politicians and some of our reverend ministers of God are, the former president Olusegun Obasanjo has a different view of Nigeria, and it was from his wealth of experience and spirit of patriotism that he charged the Nigerian youth to be positively disruptive. According to the Daily Post article on December 1st, 2023, Obasanjo said this during the Bridge Foundation Emerging Political Leadership Fellowship Program in Abuja. "You are the leaders of today. If you don't take it now, you will never get it. You have to be positively disruptive. Don't accept things the way they are. You need to make those who need to be uncomfortable, he said. Obasanjo added, knowledge is very important, accurate knowledge. You also need the fear of God and proximity to God. When you are a leader and you do not fear God, then you are a dangerous leader. Wherever you may choose, leadership is very important and the principles are the same. A good leader must have certain characteristics. Knowledge is good, but not enough. How diligent are you? What is your level of integrity? What are the values that you cherish? It is important to note and realize that the former president and elder statesman Olusegun Obasanjo seemed to have spoken in parables, and unfortunately, ideas from the hearts of great men like him are not easily understood by people with small minds.
So knowledge is very, very important, and accurate knowledge. But I won't bore you teamwork and team leadership and all that you will get. But one thing, my office, I give 20 leadership principles, factors. Like you say, we rather than I and all that. But I ended the 20th, which is the fear of God and proximity to God. The fear of God and proximity to God. You probably won't get that in any leadership book. But when you are a leader and you do not fear God, then you are a dangerous leader. When you are a leader and you are not close to God, you are a leader not to be close to. So, leadership is very important. And as I said, the military put a very, very on it.
There is saying from the Bible that unto you it has been given to understand the mysteries of the kingdom of God, but to them that are without, all these are in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand. It takes wisdom to separate the wheat from the chaff, and there is time for everything. The youth of Nigeria need our prayers, lest they eat their tomorrow today by acts of omission or commission. The pen, they say, is mightier than the gun. This is a country where it won't be an overemphasis and out of place to say that we don't have a government because we don't have a constitution, at least not the one we need. To this end, there is no guarantee for a republic that is based on liberty, equality, and the sacred principles of national representation. It is important to note also that the true conquest, the only ones that leave no regrets, are those that are made over ignorance. On a final note, as long as we are not tired of feeding you with the right ideas that are capable of awakening the giants in you, it is your responsibility also to reciprocate our gesture by sharing videos like this, especially when we realize that the present administration is doing everything possible to suppress the flow of positive information to you by compromising the only credible source of information, which are the various social media platforms, including these. You are blessed to be a blessing. Don't give up the fight. Our tomorrow is sure, and life is understood backwards and lived forward. Go on and keep growing. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you for watching.